A lot of people will tell you that all debt is bad. They'll say you should cut up your credit cards, pay cash for everything, and never ever borrow a single dollar. That advice sounds simple. It sounds safe. But honestly, it's just not true. It's a myth that keeps people from understanding one of the most powerful tools for building wealth. The truth is much more nuanced. Some debt is absolutely terrible, a financial trap that can keep you poor for decades. But some debt, the right kind, can be a rocket ship toward your financial goals. From a young age, many of us are taught one simple rule about money: stay out of debt. We hear horror stories about crushing credit card bills and loans that spiral out of control. It's a message drilled into us by our parents, our teachers, and financial gurus everywhere. And for good reason. Uncontrolled debt can be a destructive force. But what if I told you that this advice, while well-intentioned, is incomplete? What if I told you that the wealthy don't just avoid debt, they actively use a specific kind of it to build their fortunes? This is the secret weapon we're talking about today. It's a concept that flips conventional wisdom on its head. It's called rich debt. So what exactly is rich debt? Simply put, it is debt taken on to acquire an asset that is expected to generate income or appreciate in value over time. Think of it as strategic borrowing. You're not just spending money, you're investing it. The core principle is that the asset you buy with the borrowed funds should produce enough income to cover the debt payments and, ideally, leave you with a profit. Or, its value should grow at a rate that far outpaces the interest you're paying. This is debt that works for you, not against you. It's a tool for leverage, allowing you to control a large asset with a relatively small amount of your own capital. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have its destructive counterpart, poor debt. This is the type of debt most people are familiar with. It's used to buy liabilities, things that lose value over time and never put a single dollar back in your pocket. A brand new car driven off the lot loses thousands in value instantly. That designer handbag, that fancy dinner, that 4K television, they are all items of consumption. When you finance them, you're not only paying the sticker price, you're paying extra in interest for the privilege of owning something that is constantly depreciating. This is the debt that drains your wealth month after month with nothing to show for it in the long run. The biggest misconception and the most dangerous financial trap you can fall into is treating all borrowing the same. Believing that all debt is bad is like saying all food is bad. It completely ignores the fundamental difference between a nutritious meal that fuels your body and a bag of candy that gives you a momentary sugar rush before a crash. One builds you up, the other breaks you down. Rich debt is your financial protein and vegetables. Poor debt is the financial equivalent of empty calories and sugar. Let's make this concrete. A mortgage on a rental property that generates positive cash flow every single month is a classic example of rich debt. Let's say you buy a duplex for $400,000. Your mortgage is $2,500 a month. But you rent out both units for a total of $3,500. After your mortgage, taxes, and insurance, you're pocketing a profit. The debt is paying for itself, and your tenants are effectively buying you an appreciating asset. Now, that is fundamentally different from a high-interest credit card balance used to pay for a vacation. That $5,000 trip to the beach, if put on a card with 22% APR, doesn't generate income. The memories are great, but financially, it's a black hole. If you only make minimum payments, that $5,000 trip could end up costing you $8,000 or more over several years. One is a calculated investment designed to grow your net worth. The other is paying a massive premium, in the form of compounding interest, to consume something today that will be gone tomorrow, leaving only the bill behind. So, let's smash this myth once and for all. Debt is not inherently good or bad. It is a powerful tool, and like any tool, its effect depends entirely on the person wielding it. The goal isn't to live a life of extreme frugality and avoid debt entirely. That's playing defense. The wealthy play offense. The real goal is to become financially intelligent enough to know the difference between a tool and a trap. It's about developing the literacy to read the fine print, to analyze a deal, and to confidently distinguish an opportunity that will build your wealth from a liability that will drain it. This is the essence of leverage. It's about learning how to use other people's money, specifically the bank's money, to acquire assets that work for you 24/7. Why save for 30 years to buy one asset with cash when you can use that same cash as a down payment to control multiple assets today, all of them generating income and growing in value? When you truly master this distinction, your entire financial mindset shifts. You stop fearing debt and start seeing it for what it can be: a strategic lever to amplify your financial power and accelerate your journey to wealth far faster than you ever thought possible. So, what exactly is this rich debt I keep mentioning? You've probably been told your whole life that debt is bad, a trap to be avoided at all costs. And for most debt, that's absolutely true. But there's another side to the story. It's the kind of debt that wealthy people and smart investors have been using for generations to get ahead. This isn't about borrowing for a fancy vacation or a new TV. This is a strategic financial tool. It's about shifting your mindset from seeing debt as a liability to understanding how it can be a powerful asset builder. So let's define it clearly. Rich debt is money you borrow to purchase an asset that will either generate income, appreciate in value over time, or ideally, both. The core idea is simple but profound. The asset you buy with borrowed money should make you more money than the debt costs you in interest. Think of it like a business transaction. You're acquiring capital from a lender at a certain cost, the interest rate, and deploying it into an investment that yields a higher return. It's a simple equation. If your return is higher than your cost, you're coming out ahead. That positive difference is your profit, created not with your own money, but with the bank's. This is the essence of financial leverage. You're using other people's money to amplify your own financial power and accelerate your wealth-building journey. It's a business transaction using the bank's capital to your advantage, allowing you to control a much larger asset than you could afford with your own cash alone. The classic example, and one of the most accessible, is a mortgage on a rental property. Say you buy a small condo for $300,000 to rent out. You put down 20%, which is $60,000, and you use a bank loan to cover the remaining $240,000. You now control a $300,000 asset with just $60,000 of your own money. Now, a tenant moves in and pays you rent every month. Let's say that rent is $2,200. That rental income is the engine of your investment. Its first job is to pay the mortgage, which includes both the principal loan amount and the interest. But it doesn't stop there. That rent also pays the property taxes, pays the insurance, and covers a budget for maintenance and repairs. You must account for all the costs, not just the loan payment. If your math is right, after all those expenses are paid, there's money left over each month. In our example, your total monthly costs might be around $1,910. That leftover $290 is positive cash flow. It goes directly into your pocket. This is rich debt in action. The debt isn't a burden. It's the mechanism that creates monthly income for you, all while your tenant is paying down your loan and building your equity in a potentially appreciating asset. You've turned debt into a paycheck. This unlocks the power of leverage. Leverage, using borrowed money to increase an investment's potential return. Imagine you have $50,000 in savings. You could buy $50,000 of stocks. If the market rises 10%, you make $5,000. Not bad at all. But what if you use that same $50,000 as a down payment on a $250,000 rental property? You now control a $250,000 asset. If it appreciates 4%, value goes up $10,000. Your $50,000 generated a $10,000 paper gain, a 20% return, not counting cash flow. This is how real wealth is built. You're using the bank's money to control a larger asset, The bank gets predictable interest. You're getting cash flow, the appreciation and tax benefits from an asset you couldn't buy with cash. It's symbiotic. The secret: rich people don't hate debt. They hate paying interest on things that don't make money. They seek smart debt to accelerate financial freedom. To truly understand the difference between rich debt and poor debt, you have to focus on two critical components. Interest, cash flow. Interest is simply the price you pay for borrowing money. Cash flow is the direction money is moving, either into your pocket or out of it. The entire game of building wealth with debt is making sure the asset's cash flow is positive even after the cost of interest. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin: poor debt. This is the debt that the commercials and advertisements are constantly pushing on you. It's the debt that promises instant gratification but delivers long-term financial pain. Poor debt is any money you borrow to buy things that go down in value or are consumed immediately. These are liabilities, not assets. They take money out of your pocket every single month without ever putting anything back in. The most common and destructive form of poor debt is high-interest credit card debt. You swipe the card for a fancy dinner. You swipe the card for a new wardrobe. You swipe the card for the latest smartphone. You swipe the card for a weekend getaway. Worse, if you don't pay in full, interest of 20% or more turns a $1,000 gadget into $1,500 or $2,000 over time. Another perfect example of poor debt is a typical car loan. Unless you need a vehicle for a business that generates income, a car is a rapidly depreciating asset. The moment you drive a new car off the dealership lot, it loses a significant chunk of its value. Yet, you're paying interest on the original higher loan amount. You might be paying $500 a month for 5 years on a car that loses half its value in that same time frame. This is the cycle that traps so many people. They work hard to earn a paycheck, then use debt to buy things they can't quite afford, and then a huge portion of future paychecks is spoken for to pay back that debt, plus interest. This leaves very little to save or invest. Poor debt finance is a lifestyle today at the expense of your freedom tomorrow. It's a trade almost never worth it in the long run. Section 5. The numbers don't lie. A tale of two debts. All right, let's get away from theory and abstract concepts. It's time to look at some hard numbers, because this is where the rubber truly meets the road. This is where the fundamental difference between rich debt and poor debt becomes crystal clear. It's not just a philosophical distinction. It's a mathematical reality that can either build your fortune or drain it. To illustrate this, we'll compare two common scenarios where someone borrows a significant amount of money. Pay close attention, because the initial loan amount is identical in both cases. The only thing that changes is what the debt is used for. First, let's explore the path of rich debt. Imagine you've been saving diligently and you find a promising investment opportunity. A small duplex for sale for $250,000. It's in a decent neighborhood with good rental demand. You have $50,000 saved up, which you'll use for a 20% down payment. This is a crucial step, as hitting that 20% mark often helps you avoid costly private mortgage insurance, or PMI. So you take out a mortgage for the remaining $200,000. For this example, let's assume you secure a fixed interest rate of 6% for a 30-year term. This predictability is key for long-term financial planning. Based on those terms, your monthly mortgage payment, which covers both principal and interest, comes out to about $1,200. Every single month, a portion of that payment reduces your loan balance, building your ownership stake. Of course, that's not the only cost. We need to be realistic. Let's add an estimated $400 per month for property taxes and homeowners insurance. This brings your total monthly housing cost, your total fixed expense for this asset, to $1,600. This is the number your income needs to beat. Now for the income side of the equation. Since it's a duplex, you have two separate units to generate revenue. You find reliable tenants and rent out both units for $1,100 each, bringing in a total of $2,200 per month. So, let's do the math. $2,200 in gross income minus your $1,600 in fixed expenses leaves you with $600 in positive cash flow every single month. This isn't just breaking even, this is profit. That's $7,200 a year in your pocket. But the story doesn't end there. While you're collecting that cash flow, your tenants are the ones paying down your mortgage, systematically building your equity in the property for you. And we haven't even touched on appreciation. Assuming a conservative 3% annual appreciation rate, the property's value increases by $7,500 in the very first year alone. So, let's recap the power of this move. Your initial $50,000 investment is now generating multiple streams of wealth simultaneously: positive cash flow, tenant-funded equity growth, and market appreciation. This is the textbook definition of rich debt, a liability that puts more money in your pocket than it takes out, actively creating wealth for you. Now, let's say someone else takes that same $50,000 and decides to live a little. They put $10,000 down on a new $40,000 car, financing the remaining $30,000 at 7% for 6 years. The monthly payment is about $511. They then use a credit card to pay for a $5,000 vacation and only make minimum payments, which has a 21% interest rate. The car starts losing value immediately. The vacation memories fade, but the debt remains. Every month, over $550 flows out to pay for things worth less than they paid for them. After a year, they've spent over $6,600 and have a less valuable car and a stubborn credit card balance. This is poor debt destroying wealth. With rich debt, the math works in your favor. With poor debt, the cash flow is negative, and the risk is a guaranteed loss. Student loans are one of the most complicated and emotionally charged types of debt. For many, they feel like a necessary evil to get a foothold in the modern economy. The question is, are they rich debt or poor debt? The honest answer is, it depends entirely on the calculation you make before you sign the loan documents. Borrowing $80,000 to become a pharmacist with a high starting salary and strong job security is likely a very good investment that you can repay relatively quickly while living better. But borrowing $150,000 in a field with few openings and low pay is a recipe for financial disaster. Research salaries first. As a rule of thumb, don't borrow more than your expected first-year salary. Starting a business is the dream for many, and often a small business loan is the only way to get that dream off the ground. Business loans can fall into either category. It all comes down to the planning, the math, the management of risk. Borrowing to buy income-producing assets, like equipment that lets you serve more clients, is rich debt. Funding a well-researched second location in a high-traffic area is a calculated investment. A vague idea with no market research and no clear path to profitability is a gamble, not an investment. If revenue can't cover operations and loan payments, it becomes a massive personal liability. Winners know their numbers before approaching a lender. Hope is not a strategy. Calculation and planning are. By now, the distinction should be clearer. But how do you apply this when deciding to borrow? Think of this as your personal filter. First question: will the thing I am buying with borrowed money put more money into my pocket than it takes out? Rentals, profitable businesses, and income-boosting degrees should. A new TV, luxury handbag, or vacation will not. Second, consider appreciation. Real estate and well-run businesses can rise in value. Cars, electronics, clothes, furniture usually depreciate. Third, compare interest rate to expected return. Borrow at 6% for a 10% yield? Healthy. Use 22% APR for a 10% margin? The math kills you. Finally, have a plan and a safety net. Budget for vacancies, slow starts, and repairs. Smart borrowers plan for worst-case scenarios. Poor debt is impulsive and emotional. Avoid it. Use the checklist every time. Understanding the theory is great, but knowledge is useless without action. The goal is to change your financial reality, not just your financial vocabulary. Start making changes today. First, get a clear picture of where you stand. You can't plan a journey without knowing your starting point. Take an hour and list every single debt: who you owe, total balance, interest rate, and minimum payment. Circle the highest interest debt. This is your #1 enemy. I recommend the avalanche method. Pay the highest interest first to save the most, while maintaining minimums on others. Funnel every extra dollar toward it. Cut expenses, pick up a side hustle, sell what you don't need. Get ruthless. Build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. This is your safety net. Educate yourself, explore income-producing assets, and start saving for your first down payment. Debt amplifies your habits. Choose wisely and start today.